journey home. On a cold, shadowy October evening, many moons ago, Charles clearly remembers the moment when he stumbled upon the beautiful creature that would impact his life forever. Charles had been returning from a trip from France where he'd spent his days sampling the finest wine and foods from the finest restaurants. On the boat home, Charles treated himself to fancy meals as the night began to fold over France. Everywhere he looked was covered in blazing stars in the vast midnight sky. It was beautiful. Charles could hear the band's music as it echoed all around the ship. The elegant sound of violins turned into violent soaring. Out of nowhere, Charles began to hear blood-curdling screams as they strolled down the stairs. The once calm pitter-patter had transformed into a mighty storm. The ship began to violently rock from left to right as the passengers looked out in horror. Suddenly, Charles began to hear the faint cry of a baby. After hearing that, Charles gathered up all of his courage and began making his way towards the sea-swallowed deck. Clutching onto the banister, he carefully made his way up the stairs and onto the deck. He cautiously poked his head round the extremely valuable door to see utter chaos. The violent waves crashed against the sturdy boat as objects were washed overboard. Not so far away from the boat, Charles could faintly make out an object floating around in the ocean. Quickly, he sprinted towards the side of the boat. The ocean became more restless. Charles began to hug his briefcase forward as he swiftly paced towards a life raft. Suddenly, the fuming sea howled. Waves began to cover the deck once again as a black box was tossed into the final lifeboat, along with Charles. He began to hear a baby's voice again. Charles looked and looked and looked some more, but he could not see a baby anywhere. The black box began to shake. Charles opened the black box. There it lay, a baby with hair as yellow as lightning. Charles had no family, so he'd never been this close to a baby before, nor knew how to care for one. Charles, whilst he clutched the baby, looked around for the baby's mother. He could not spot anyone. Firmly grasping the oar, Charles began rowing forwards from the wreckage of the boat. Braving the mighty storm, the raft was hurled forward as the baby began to cry. Charles attempted to comfort her, but the storm destroyed any trace of sound. Through all the salty mist, Charles noticed something, a small speck of land in the distance. A rush of hope flowed through his body. The baby, who had become rather soggy, began to clutch Charles's arm. He smiled as he rowed as fast as he could towards land. As he braved the mighty storm, Charles felt achieved.